Let's turn to Psalm 39. Psalm 39. And let's take a look at verse 1. Psalm 39 and verse 1. Now, this afternoon leading up to the end of the Sabbath, I'm going to divide this service into different segments. And the first segment here of our time of worship is going to address some important matters I have been considering for the past few weeks. And every Sabbath we come together, I said, okay, this Sabbath I'm going to address it, this Sabbath I'm going to address it, this Sabbath. And due to the fact we have so much to cover, I have been postponing, putting off, but this evening I want to share with you some thoughts that I have concerning prophecy, concerning what's ahead of us, regarding the work of preparation. And I want to give us some insights based on what God has laid upon my heart. Now, I'm certain I would not be able to go in depth, but just to cover a few points. In Psalm 39, a beautiful scripture is laid out here, and without inspiration, we're not going to fully comprehend this verse. Let's begin with verse number 1. David writes, the psalmist writes, I said, I will take heed to my ways, that I sin not with my tongue. I will keep my mouth with a bridle, while the wicked is before me. I was dumb with silence. I held my peace, even from good, and my sorrow was stirred. And I want to focus now with emphasis on verse number 3. And when we close this session together, this hour of worship, I'm going to end right here where we begin, where we had begun. Verse 3, my heart was hot within me. While I was musing, the fire burned. Then spake I with my tongue. Now, let this sit on the shelf in your mind, and we are going to return to this verse. Verse 3, my heart was hot within me, and while I was musing, the fire burned. Then spake I with my tongue. This sounds very similar to the experience that Jeremiah, the prophet, also was experiencing. Now, we are very familiar with what happened today, right? Just a few moments ago, as if it were a confirmation of what we have been anticipating. As you can see on the screen here, that Brett Kavanaugh has been confirmed to the Supreme Court by the Senate. And of course, again, I want to share with you some things I've been contemplating even before this event transpired. And of course, our president has now sent forth this tweet stating, I applaud and congratulate the U.S. Senate for confirming our great nominee, Judge Brett Kavanaugh, to the United States Supreme Court. Later today, I will sign his commission of appointment. And of course, he will be officially sworn in. With the last two words, exclamation mark, very exciting. Now, I want to bring you back to the statement that we saw and share with you what the religious conservatives are already planning, even before Brett Kavanaugh was confirmed, which gives us an idea of the trajectory of this movement, which is the Dominionist movement, Dominionism, anti-apostate Protestants, and where this evangelical movement is going with this unification, confederacy of church and state. Look at the statement here, this headline here. Alabama revisits 10 commandments hoping for help from Brett Kavanaugh. September 25th, they were planning for this. It says, watch carefully. For many in the crowd of about 100, the commandments and Judge Kavanaugh are paramount concerns this election season. midterms, election. More than a decade after, Roy S. Moore was ousted as Alabama's Chief Justice for defying federal court orders to remove a 5,280-pound stone slab, 5,280-pound slab, stone slab of the commandments from the state judicial building. Voters will consider, or what, friends? A constitutional amendment. In when? Which month? A few weeks from now, in November, that would allow the 10 commandments to be displayed in schools and other public property across Alabama. Now, I won't even stop right there. Listen what this says next. Those campaigning for it now say their goal is to get a case before Supreme Court where they hope if a Justice Kavanaugh is on the bench, what happens now? A conservative majority will rule in favor of such displays. What is that saying? Talk to me. I mean, what is that saying right there? Or hinting and revealing about the court and the evangelicals? You're just mumbling. Talk to me. What now? Church and state union. What else? Okay. The Johnson Amendment, null and void. Anyone else? Now notice. Now, we have to be very careful what we preach and what we say. Because notice, do you think God can overrule their plans? So here they are planning to have an amendment to the Constitution, watch carefully, to allow the 10 Commandments to be displayed in schools and public property. Now, as long as those 10 Commandments read as Exodus 20, God will be praised nevertheless. Because someone may read the 4th commandment, and it says what? Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And they may begin to inquire, then which day is that Sabbath day? So what they meant for evil, God can overrule for good, and souls can be saved. If you agree, say amen. Amen. But we know what the end result is going to be, not only for those in public spaces, but also those in the schools. Now notice right here, friends. This is what I shared with you a few days ago regarding this pastor. As you can see the headlines, Bible studies at the United Nations. How mega church pastor is bringing light to the dark halls of power. Let's get some volume right here as we ride up on the volume here. Listen what this says.
At the United Nations, we will have the weekly worship services for those who want to attend, who are part of the United Nations. We've just had a few. And then we're launching what's called the Hammarskjöld Society. Dag Hammarskjöld, famous name up there, former Secretary General, who was a Christian. And so the Hammarskjöld Society is an attempt to bring transcendent truths, biblical truths, eternal truths to contemporary governance. And that's designed for the diplomatic corps, for ambassadors. And we're very pleased that Ambassador Nikki Haley met with us, and she's embraced what we're doing. She is so kind and gracious and really endorsing what we're attempting to do, and we're very grateful for that. That's a big deal. It's enormous. We have such high regard and respect for her as does the whole nation. And then down in D.C., we work with Pastor Rick Scarborough, part of our team there, and we have Bible studies on the Hill for members of Congress. And that's not so unique because there are a number of those going on, but also launching Bible studies in the various departments and agencies. And so when you think of, say, Department of Agriculture, Department of Interior, HHS, HUD, the State Department, etc., we're targeting those areas to just bring together people who desire to have biblical truth taught, and that's biblical principles of governance, God's view of governance. How is governance supposed to take place? Because I believe if governance is followed biblically, it reduces human suffering, human pain, and poverty.
How do you go about trying to get permission to do that?
Actually, we have to work with the agencies, each one, okay, and get permission. You need, if you're going to lead a Bible study in Congress, we work through a member of Congress. If we're going to do something in the United Nations, we only work with the blessings of a given nation. We follow protocol there. We just got we have one Bible study going right now. We're brand new in this part, in one department, and just got permission 2 weeks ago from another department or agency. And just as of yesterday, got what looks like a green light for a third one. So we're working our way through.
That first step you talked about, which is the biblical principles, God's governance, and those principles, that would be then therefore what happens from that? What's the ultimate goal here to make sure if we're living by God's principles, what's the cause and effect here?
Let's take the city of Detroit. City of Detroit in 1960.
You know what I see here? I never saw this before, and I'm going to say this very clearly and succinctly as possible. Do you know, when you read historical books, and you go to the Bible, a book like Great Controversy, as in the beast, so in the image. And the papacy has had men, Jesuits, who infiltrate offices of state in various countries. For what purpose? To change and to shape the policies of nations after the order of Roman Catholicism. But they infiltrate. But now the apostate Protestants, evangelicals, they don't infiltrate. They work overtly. And they rise up and take over and basically educate statesmen to follow their principles of biblical governance. And if you really look at the Bible, church and state must be what? Separate. But they would teach God's governance based on their philosophy that the church must dictate to the state. I'm going somewhere with this. Whenever I repeat something, it's because I'm laying a foundation for something else. And here we have this movement, Dominionism, bringing theocracy. We get that. We have covered that. And they want to cover all branches of the U.S. government. They call themselves POTUS Shield. All right, Dominionism. Now, I want to share with you something here. As you can see this on your screen. Now, here is another person. This is the actual lead of this church and state union on Capitol Hill. Not only at the UN, as we just saw, but look at this. In this clip, Ralph Drollinger, who leads regular Bible studies for members of Congress. Members of where? Congress and where? Whose? And Trump cabinet officials, has been given word that he might be able, watch, to start a Bible study group at the Supreme Court if Brett Kavanaugh is confirmed. That came on October 3rd. So if Brett Kavanaugh is confirmed to SCOTUS, now what can they bring there? Bible study. Now I wish they would allow me or somebody else to go have a Bible study group there. I wonder if God can just bless us and we be an Esther. Who knows if thou hast come to the kingdom at such a time as this. I wonder if we could be like a Daniel. Like those 3 Hebrews. To stand in the very halls of Congress. The very halls of SCOTUS. Oh, Lord. But you know, the counterfeit always precedes the genuine. So these men have been given time, the counterfeit, but God will allow those with the truth to stand before these men. Are we preparing ourselves? Do we have wine? Look at this.
The Lord's given us
some volume here.
The Lord's given us great favor. We don't know quite how this has all happened, except the guys in the House, when we started here 10 years ago, some of them got elected to the Senate. They said, hey, we like the in-depth Bible studies. Why don't you come to the Senate? Now we have 12 senators in our weekly Bible study. And then all of a sudden, when Trump was elected, I think it was through Pence, we all of a sudden started seeing members from our Senate and House Bible studies being plucked and put into the cabinet. And so we have 11 cabinet members now that many of them are from a real in-depth Bible study perspective relative to their own life. And so great things are happening here. And I think we're at a watershed moment this week. It's interesting that you would be here praying because I think we might be seeing the top of the bell curve and a watershed issue of going down the other side now toward righteousness in our nation without an oligarchical Supreme Court that's liberally bent. And actually, Alex Azar, if I could just say this anecdotally before I leave you, who's the new HHS secretary, he's really good friends with Justice Kavanaugh. And he says, when Justice Kavanaugh gets appointed, either we'll have him here to the Cabinet Bible study or he'll want to start one in SCOTUS. So pray that would happen, of all places, at the Supreme Court.
Go to Proverbs 14 with me. Proverbs chapter 14. And let's take a look at this scripture here. And look at it very keenly. Proverbs chapter 14 and verse number 34. Because when these men speak about righteousness in the nation, they're not speaking about preaching the gospel and let the gospel do the work in men's hearts. They're talking about impressing state leaders to force you to worship because they want to fulfill Proverbs 14:34, but not God's way. Is that clear, my friends? Is that clear? Now, write down this quotation because I want everyone to comprehend that it's a possibility Brett Kavanaugh does not even know where all of this is tending. It's a possibility, I don't know, President Trump might not even know where all of this is tending, but the Pope knows. Oh, he knows. He knows. And the other congressmen and women may not even know what's the trajectory of all of this. That's why we're told in Testimonies, Volume 5, page 452, she says, the Sunday movement is making its way in darkness. And then she says, the leaders are concealing the true issue. And the next phrase, many of those who are following don't even know where the movement is tending. It may look mild and apparently Christian. And that's what we're seeing here. The movement may look mild and apparently Christian, but when it shall speak, it will reveal the spirit of the dragon. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war. Do we have the wine? So I hope we can see what's coming. I want to talk with you this evening. Hope you see what's coming. Let's change gears. So we see what's coming here. And they have already said that if Brett Kavanaugh, again, October 3rd now, if Brett Kavanaugh is confirmed to SCOTUS, he may join the Cabinet Bible studies or bring it to where? SCOTUS. Supreme Court. And what happened? Has he been confirmed? Keep your eyes open, friends. Keep your eyes open. And maybe God can use us to be a Daniel, to be an Esther. Just as Mary at the feast could see that they were at a feast and the people had no wine. We are looking at Kavanaugh, looking at Trump and the others, and we are saying they have been infiltrated by Jesuits. They have no wine. But who can Christ use? Because new wine must be placed into what bottles? Bottles. So that means we must be praying, Lord, make me a new vessel. Make me a new bottle. Wake up, wake up. Shake off the sleep. Make me a new bottle, a new vessel, and pour into me that new wine. Now, if you're sleeping now, you won't be a Daniel. If you're sleeping, you cannot be an Esther. It's high time. That what, friends? It's high time, friends, that we be awakened out of sleep, physically and spiritually. I want to talk with you. And this morning I shared with you that they're already saying, if Kavanaugh is confirmed, that the Supreme Court will make what? An image. We covered that. A what, friends? An image. To what? To what? It's two steps. So the Supreme Court states, make an image to what? The religious conservatives. What is that? They will force statesmen to rule based on their policies and doctrines. Make sense? But in essence, it's an image to the beast, the papacy, church-controlling state. I mean, friends, we're not Seeing what's happening here? Look at this. And then we quoted from Great Controversy, page 445, where it says, let's read this. When the leading churches of America, uniting upon such points of doctrine as are held by them in common, shall influence the state to enforce their decrees and to sustain their institutions. Now underscore and note that word. What will the churchmen influence the state to do what? To enforce their decrees and what? Sustain their what? So we want to see what are these decrees that are linked to what? Institutions. Oh, friends, God is going to open our eyes. When we see this, then what happens? Protestant America will have formed a what? An image of the Roman hierarchy and the infliction of civil penalties upon God's commandment keeping people will surely result. All right, that was GC 445. Let's see now, comparing quote with quote, statement with statement. What is this institution that America, the United States, its Protestant groups, apostate Protestants, will influence the state to sustain their institutions? What's one of them? GC 578. Blue words. It's Sunday. Blue words. What it says there, my friends? Blue words. In both the old and the new world, the papacy will receive homage in the honor paid to the Sunday institution that rests solely upon the authority of the Roman Church. Is it clear now, friends? So they will influence SCOTUS, Congress, to enforce their decrees, sustain the Sunday institution, which means then Sunday by state decree. If it's clear, say amen, friends. That's it. But in which world will Sunday be the law of the land? Which worlds? Both the old and the... Now, today, I'm going to focus on the new world. Where's that, by the way? The Americas. I'm going to focus on the United States. But in order for us to understand how Sunday will be enacted in America and force people to give up the Sabbath and keep Sunday, we have to go back to the old world and see how Sunday became prevalent, prominent. Then we can see how it will become prominent in America. That's where my mind has been, friends. Do you know, based on the word of God, we can predict something right here? Please don't call me a prophet. I shouldn't even be a preacher. Please don't call me a prophet, friends. But I'm going to share with you something I've been musing about. Look at this right here. Great Controversy, page 579. Now watch carefully. That was 578, right? Come on. Paragraph 3, right? Which says, in both the old and the new world, the Roman Catholic Church, Popery, will receive homage in the honor paid to the what? So will the new world enforce Sunday law? A Sunday law. Watch carefully now. Next paragraph. Since the middle of the 19th century, students of prophecy in the United States have presented this testimony to the, what testimony? That both in the, come on, old and new world, Sunday will be enacted. Make sense now? Watch carefully now. In the events, and yet people are saying don't watch current events. Deceived. In the events now taking place, is seen a what? A rapid advance toward the fulfillment of the prediction. Walk with me, friends. This has been plaguing my mind. With Protestant teachers, there is the same claim of divine authority for Sunday keeping. But what? But what? And the same lack of scriptural evidence. Sunday worship is not in the Bible as authorized by God. If it's clear, say amen. As, simile, comparison, as with the papal leaders who did what now? You know, I was going to print this out on a handout for you so you could read and take notes. Just please follow me here. As with the papal leaders who fabricated miracles to supply the place of a command from God. I want somebody to tell me what fabricate or to fabricate mean. You know what? It's a broad. It has a litany of meaning. What now? Manufacture. What else? Fabricate. Huh? Counterfeit. Okay. It's false, to falsify something. What else? Or something can be real, but you give the wrong intention of the thing. To falsify. All right, to cook up, as we would say. Okay, it says, watch carefully, they will fabricate what? So in the old world, what did the papal leaders do? Blue words, talk to me. In the old world, the papal leaders did what? Fabricated miracles to say Sunday is God's day. So since in the old world, the papal leaders did that, to fabricate miracles, what will happen in America? This has been on my mind, friends. May I read on here? All right. Then she says, red words, the assertion that God's judgments are visited upon men for their violation of the Sunday Sabbath will be what? So if it's going to be repeated, it means what? By implication. Where? In the old world. Read on. Already it is beginning to be urged. What is beginning to be urged? That God's, thank you. That these judgments are coming because people are violating the Sunday Sabbath. It happened in the old, it's going to happen right now. Now, when we get to, when we arrive at the punchline, as we would say, the point of emphasis, then we're going to make the prediction, all right? Walk with me. Last sentence. And a movement to enforce Sunday observance is what? Fast gaining. Here's the point now. If we go back to the old world, do you know what happened? In the old world, Sunday became prominent by this point. Calamities happened on many days of the week, but one day specifically, Sunday. And as the calamities began to become more severe and frequent on Sundays, not Monday, not Tuesday, not Wednesday, you get the point, but on Sundays, the papists now said, that means Sunday is God's day. That's why the calamities have come on Sunday. Now, do you realize in the old world that happened? So what will happen in the new world now? Same what? What's the same thing? On Sunday. So I'm not talking about a hurricane on Monday or a tornado on Tuesday. I'm talking about a severe earthquake on a Sunday. Make sense now? A tornado on Sunday. Fires on Sunday. That's what I'm talking about. We can predict that. Not because we are prophets, but because God's word says so. Look out for it. Is it clear, friends? All right, let's go. Well, let's see what happened in the old, because that's what she says. In the new will happen as in the old. All right, let's go there now. Let's go back 2 pages, GC 574. I wish I'd given you the handout. It says, watch carefully, as the papacy became firmly established, I'm going to read pretty fast. The work of Sunday exhortation was continued. For a time, the people engaged in agricultural labor when not attending church, and the seventh day was still regarded as a Sabbath. Next sentence, what it says. But steadily a change. So we want to see how that change came in the old world. Does it make sense? Because today we all honor God's Sabbath, right? But a change will come. I won't go there. Those in holy office were forbidden to pass judgment in any civil controversy on the Sunday. Look at this now. Soon after, all persons of what? That was like a light bulb that went off in my mind. It was very enlightening. Watch carefully. Soon after, all persons of whatever rank. What comes to your mind? Whatever rank were commanded to refrain from common labor on pain of a fine, or fine for freemen, and stripes in the case of servants. Just this point, soon after, all persons of whatever rank were forced to keep Sunday. What text comes to mind? Whatever rank. Go there. Go there. Chapter 13 of the Revelation. Go there. And look at verse 16. And he caused all. That's it, friends. Both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. That's it. Whatever rank, you're going to keep Sunday. Or fines, imprisonment, even death. All right, let's move on. What is the next sentence? First paragraph, pardon me. Second paragraph. Watch carefully. It says miracles also were called into what? So when the change came in the old world, for Sunday to become prominent, miracles were brought into play. Miracles also were called into requisition. What does that mean? Read on. Among other wonders. So don't forget miracles and wonders. Among other wonders, it was reported that as a husbandman who was about to plow his field on Monday, right? Wednesday, right? On Sunday, it says, cleaned his plow with an iron. The iron stuck fast in his hand. And for 2 years, he carried it about with him to his exceeding great pain and shame. What happened on Sunday? A calamity. Next paragraph. Later, the Pope gave directions. It's a straight reading, friends. The Pope gave directions that the parish priest should admonish the violators of Sunday and wish them to go to church and say their prayers, lest they bring some great what? Do you mean in the old world there was climate change? You didn't hear me. But those calamities came on what? No, I want to give you one. But if you go back to Great Controversy, she gave us more than one in the historical record. It's there. And those calamities came on what day? Sunday. All right. Later on now, the Pope says, tell everyone, go to church, say their prayers, lest they bring some great calamity on themselves and neighbors. An ecclesiastical council brought forward the argument. Let's read now. Since so widely employed, even by Protestants, that because persons had been struck by lightning while laboring on what day? Sunday, it must be the Sabbath. That happened in the old world. So what will come to the new world? When will the calamities hit America specifically? We can predict that. It's 2018. We can predict that. It's coming, friends. In America, it's coming. Because then they're going to say, you see, God is mad with us because we are sinning, and because he sent calamities on Sunday, it means we are desecrating Sunday. Sunday must be the law of the land, and all of you must keep it. Rich or if you're poor, free or if you're bond. Make sense now, my friends? All, small or even great, Sunday worship. It's coming, friends. We can predict that. Get back to my screen. It is apparent, said the prelates, how high the displeasure of God was upon their neglect of this day. An appeal was then made that priests and ministers, who else, my friends? Kings and rulers, princes, and all faithful people use their utmost endeavors and care that the day, what day? Sunday be what? Restored to its honor, and for the credit of Christianity, more devoutly observed from the time to come. That's how Sunday became prominent. The calamities came on what day? But Sister White says that they were fabricated. You caught that? The miracles were fabricated. I wonder what that means for us today, friends. May I finish right here and come to that last sentence? The decrees of councils proving insufficient. The secular authorities were what? So who is influencing who? Church to the state. Were besought to issue an edict that would strike terror to the heart of the people and force them to refrain from labor on the Sunday. Go with me, Revelation 13. Are you there, my friends? Because remember, she says that what? Calamities came on Sunday. That these were fabricated and miracles were brought into requisition. Does the Bible speak about miracles? Does the Bible speak about miracles? Many times, right? But specifically, does the Bible mention miracles in connection with the Sunday law coming? It does. And this is for the new world. Do you know why? In the old world, miracles, so-called, were used. And they came on what day? Now, when I say miracles, understand this. It's not the hocus pocus miracles now. The sleight of the hand, right? In this context, it means calamities. That's what it means. These wonders. That's what it means. Look here carefully. Where are we going to? All right, verse 11. Which beast is in verse 11 with two lamb-like horns? So which word is this? Old or new? New world. Oh, amen, friends. Come on down with me to verse 13. Verse 13, and he doeth great. Did we not read that word wonders? Did we not read that word wonders, my friends? Did we? Look at it one more time. Just for emphasis, look at this. GC 579. Are you there, my friends? It says, watch carefully. All right. In the events, papal leaders. All right. Is it here? Homage Sunday. All right. Must be here now. Here it is. Must be here, right? Wonders. Wonders. Last line. Yes. Miracles. There it is. GC 575. My friends, this has been stirring my heart for a number of weeks now. Miracles also were called into requisition. And what shall we now read? Miracles. Watch now. Among other wonders, it was, and we get the point, a calamity on what day? Come back here. Chapter 13, now verse 13, and he doeth great, there's your word, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and this fire deceives, verse 14, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they shall make an image to the beast, which had the wound by the sword, and did. So what is this fire coming down now? Now, this fire is twofold now. The fire points to the false revival, as with Elijah on Mount Carmel. All right. So it points to this context is false revival. So what God hindered the false prophets from doing on Mount Carmel, he would do it, allow them to do it in the new. That's the fire, false revival. And the fire literally is literal fire, calamities. And when it comes down, but come down on which day? Do you see? Go back there, verse 13. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast, verse 13, and doeth great wonders, so that he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth. What day? What day must we look for it now specifically? Notwithstanding Monday and Tuesday and Thursday, but Sunday is coming, friends. And verse 14, the people now will be deceived to think the calamities come on Sunday. That means Sunday must be the Sabbath. And why would they say so? Because they don't have a biblical text to prove Sunday is the Sabbath. So the calamities is what they're going to use. If it makes sense, say amen, friends. Yeah. Yeah. And this is what that has been stirring my heart, friends, for the past few weeks. So do we have an example of calamities coming specifically on a Sunday in connection with churchmen saying you are desecrating God's Sabbath? Do we? Look at the screen. Past that. What's that right there? Sabbath breaking, cause tsunami, divine visitation. On what day? And what day do they call the Lord's Day? He continued, it's right there, friends. He continued that some of the places most affected by the tsunami attracted pleasure seekers from all over the world. It has to be noted that the wave arrived, tsunami, on the Lord's day, the day God set apart to be observed the world over as a holy, resting from all employments and recreations that are lawful on other days. The tsunami, a series of what? Sparked by a subsea earthquake of Sumatra, arrived on Sunday morning. It's right there now, friends. That means we must see more of these, but not in the East. Not in Asia. That's the old world. Where must we see it now? It's coming, friends. It's coming. Could we say, should we say, can we say, peradventure, the calamities that we hear these men, may I say, foretelling, prophesying, as they say, the big one is coming on the West Coast. It's due for the West Coast. California, Oregon, Washington State. What am I talking about? Big one. Earthquake. Could they fabricate something? Yes. On Sunday? Yes. Could they? Could they manufacture it? Yes. Now we know the devil can do it. Just go read Job's account in Job 1. The devil can do it. But can he also work through human beings? Yes. That's it, friends. That's what I'm saying. I mean, harp is antiquated now. That's Fred Flintstone. Yeah, they have some new stuff now. New stuff. What now? Cloud seeding. Yeah. That one too. So everything's okay. So everything is Fred and Barney. Okay. Friends, we haven't seen anything yet. And the question is, are we prepared for this? So when Sister White says that these occurrences will become more frequent and disastrous, we have to look out for them. But on what day specifically, friends? They're coming. Because they have no scripture to say Sunday is a Sabbath. So they have to bring the calamities and say, this is why the calamities come on Sunday, because you are desecrating Sunday. And Sister White next says, in the following paragraph, she says that the Roman Catholics know that it was calamities that came on Sunday that made Sunday prominent in the old world. And Sister White says the papacy knows America will do the same thing. You ready for this? Look at this. Now, what came to Indonesia a few days ago? Now, I mean, that number is very small now. It's over 1,000 people who have died from that. Past that. Look at this now. This is the next paragraph in GC 580. Now she says, marvelous in her shrewdness and cunning is the Roman church. She can read what is to be. She bids her time. This is going to amaze you when I read this. She bids her time. She bides her time, seeing that the Protestant churches are paying her homage in the acceptance of the false Sabbath. Watch this now. And that they are preparing to enforce it by the very means which she herself employed in bygone days. So how did she do it in bygone days? Come on, talk to me. How did she do it in bygone days? Fabricating calamities and miracles on which day? Sunday. And said that's God's day. And the papacy knows America is about to do the same thing. So what? So really, what is this climate movement all about? Sunday worship, friends. It's right there. We can see it now. We can see it now. Don't be surprised one day you wake up and you see blood in the water. on Sunday morning. Wiping out a whole city, a populated area. And they said, there it is, the plagues are here. Let's worship God. You wake up tomorrow morning on Sunday, you hear a tornado wipe out a populated area. And they start shouting, it's because you are desecrating Sunday. And I believe the location these calamities have to hit on a Sunday are pleasure resorts where those places do not shut down on Sunday. Where would those places be? Where are they in the new world? I didn't hear you. I mean, you're singing to my ears now. What now? Las Vegas. Where else? Not Orlando. No. Orlando. Oh yes. Where else? Where? New York. Where else? Chicago. Where else? That's a big state now. California. You mean the whole state? San Francisco. Where now? LA. You see, it makes sense now. One Sunday we wake up, CNN, Fox News, CBS News, this whole city wiped out on Sunday morning. God is angry. And we want God to bless America. Everybody must, you will see as a whirlwind what would happen in America. And you do know what that would do? It would awaken the church. And many would be awakened to realize they don't have the new wine. They don't have undergarment. They're not in the right location. Lord, help me. What do you say? Amen. Amen. Help me. Let's close. Watch carefully now. Those who reject the light of truth will yet seek the aid of this self-styled infallible power to exalt an institution, that word again, that originated with her. How readily she, the papacy, will come to whose help? To the help of Protestants in America first. In this work, it is not difficult to conjecture. Who understands better than the papal leaders, let's read that, how to deal with those who are disobedient to the church? Does the papacy have a resume? And what's on that resume? Go to James 5. What's on that resume? Does she have a long history of dealing with who she calls heretics, dissenters? My friends, it's coming as a whirlwind, friends. It's coming. It's coming. And this has been plaguing my mind. And I hope you understood what I just shared. Did you, friends? Yeah. My heart is indicting a heavy matter. And I want this evening my tongue to be as a ready writer. Where are we going to? All right. I'm going to share this last point with you. In James chapter 5, let me talk with you for a minute. In James chapter 5, the Bible speaks about a coming crisis where the men in power, the moneyed men, the bankers, the merchants, right? The men in power, in high offices, right? That they are the ones who are going to distort the market, the financial market, in order to impoverish even more the world, beginning in America. And Sister White says, when this takes place, and the Bible, when this takes place, probation is about to close. And that's what we find in James chapter 5. Now, let's peruse that chapter. James chapter 5. Look at verse 1. Go to now you whom? You rich men. What must they do? Weep and howl for your miseries. That shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted. Your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you. They shall eat your flesh as it were fire. You have heaped treasure together for when? So who is heaping all the treasures to themselves? And what happens to the rest of us in verse 4? What happened in Egypt just before the Exodus? Similar. And that's why God's word now says in verse 7, when we see this, verse 7 through verse number 8, he says, watch out, it's time for the rain to fall. The early and the latter, the former and the latter. And look at verse 9. What is Christ about to do now? In verse 9, once we see the rich hoarding and people are becoming more impoverished. Verse 9, he's about to what now, friends? He's about to stand up. Don't forget that. I'm going to show you this from the Spirit of Prophecy now. Christ is about to what? What does it mean the judge stands at the door? Because who's the judge, by the way? Not Kavanaugh. It's Christ. And when Christ went to heaven, he went to what? To sit. So when he stands, what does that mean? When he sits, he intercedes. When he stands, it's over. No more intercession. That's Bible. Make sense now, friends? Make sense? All right. Write these 3 countries down on your paper. Do you realize in the news, Russia has been prominent in the news? Yes. Beloved, my mind has been stirred up for the past few weeks, friends. Russia, put that down. What about India? Has India been in the news recently? As of late. Can you name the 3rd country? It's in the east. You see that now? Who? China. Those 3. Russia, India, and China. Are they known today as countries that persecute God's people? That persecute God's people. Are they known for that? Russia, India, and China. Are they, friends? All right, here's where we're going now. Do you know Sister White wrote about those 3 countries? And when we see today what she wrote about decades ago, you know Christ is about to stand up. I'm telling you where we're going. So when we get there, you know we have arrived. She spoke about Russia. She spoke about India. And she spoke about China. And she gave some specifics there. That when you see this, Christ is about to stand up. She says Daniel 12, verse 1 is about to be fulfilled, friends. And when you look at the context of her words, she's not talking about something in the immediate future from her time, but in our day, in the last days. That's where we're going. And just as Sister White says, history, current events have all confirmed that God gave us a true messenger. He did. And she says, when you see what's happening in Russia, in India, in China, then she says, a civil war is coming. Now, this civil war, I believe, is going to be the repetition of the French Revolution. Not some black and white stuff, but the French Revolution. And let me just put this point right here before I forget, because so much on my mind right now, my friends. Country living is more than just saying, I'm going to pick a state, as if you have a raffle. I'm going to pick a state out of all 50. And whichever one I draw, that's where I'm going. And then I say, okay, let me put some counties in this state. Pick a county. Okay, I'm gone. Country living is more than that. You have to make sure that you strike a balance. You are close enough toward the cities from the outposts, but you're far away enough. So when the riots break out and starvation begin in these cities, and civil war breaks out in these cities, people can't eat, no job, no money, things shut down, you're going to see riots as you've never seen it before, my friends. And where they realize they can't find food, they're going to begin to branch out. And if you are too close, if their children are crying, but yours aren't, they're coming next door. Not to shake your hand, not to open, but to kick down your door. And whatever they can find, they are taking. You know, when Sister White writes about bold robberies in volume 9, page 11, bold robberies in volume 9, page 11, you don't know what that is. You don't know what that is. Bold robberies is seeing you with stuff. I am in need, and I'm going to take it and smile in your face, and you can't say a word, or else I snuff out your life. That's bold robberies, my friends. It's coming. Civil war is coming. Riots and bloodshed are coming. So again, some of you don't even believe what I'm saying. You're like, Pastor, just sit down. I'll sit down shortly. Look at the screen right here. What 3 countries you have there? Russia. Let's start right there. No. Let me say this. Do you realize what do all 3 have in common? What now? The persecution of Christians. That's it, friends. And of course, China, communist country. Russia, communist country. India, who knows what that is. Okay, get back to my point. But what? The persecution of Christians, my friends. What else they have in common? Come on, every Sabbath we talk about this. Poverty. What else? Large population. What else? Biometrics. Your bodies are not your own. Yeah. Yes. And do you realize in Russia, in India, I'm going there, in China, as they persecute Christians from various denominations, which one? They leave unmolested. I wonder why. I wonder why the Roman Catholic Church is unmolested, but other denominations are being persecuted in Russia, in India, in China. I wonder what God is showing us. I wonder if most of the things we read on the media is a farce, a smoke screen. May I go there now? India, let's go there. Russia. Now, you know, I won't spend much time because we know this. All right? Since I say where we're going, let me skim through this. Russia, we know what happened in Russia. No evangelism. Outside of what now? The church. State-sponsored churches. We know that. All right? And what happened to the Jehovah's Witnesses? Just this talking point. What happened? They seized all of their properties, even for some people, their persons being imprisoned. There it is right there. And of course, look at this right here. They call the Jehovah's Witnesses what? Extremists. Right there, friends. Extremists. And who is saying, let all churches and nations unite to fight extremism and fundamentalism? You could see what's happening past that. And also they say, Russia, this is a Russian Roman Catholic. And she made the statement that they not only fear Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia, but they also fear Seventh-day Adventists. And the law that came down in Russia affected not only Jehovah's Witnesses, but also whom? Seventh-day Adventists. It doesn't matter what our leaders say. It's what they say. Or unless they're under some cover-up business. Come back here. There it is, friends. There it is. They fear those who are evangelizing in Russia because there are some faithful Adventists there who are evangelizing the people in Russia. And they fear us. Headline says what now, friends? It's not going to affect with church. So we know that. I wonder why. Past that. Let's come to India. You see, that's why I love to tell you where we're going so we can walk together. All right, what's happening in India, my friend? Biometrics, right? And if you don't go along with the government biometric system, you can't buy, you can't sell, you can't eat, you get no pension, no your retirement check, none of it. Headline says, citizens in India don't have what? Absolute right over their bodies. So say who? The Indian government. And look at the connection. What is India also trying to combat? Climate change. And what does she say everyone must worship to combat climate change? The sun god. What a connection there. That's India. Run to Russia. China now. What's happening in China? Are they also pushing biometrics? Same connection. And if you don't, you can't buy or sell. We cover that. Headline, China shutting down churches, seizing Bibles in an ambitious new effort to eradicate what? You know, friends, a few weeks ago I preached on this. These articles came from a previous sermon, and YouTube just took my sermon down. No, without a word, without even a reason, I took it down. Blocked it. I wonder why. Because, most of you saw this before. Notice, Adventist Church suffers from which government? Over the last several months, local governments across the country have shut down hundreds of private Christian house churches of the Seventh-day Adventist faith. One pastor said hundreds of his congregants were questioned individually. Individually. Do you have some wine? Individually about their faith. China. Let's see now. Headline says what now? China and Vatican. Do you see it now, friends? Russia, they're connected. India, connected. China and the Vatican, also connected. Can you see what's happening, friends? Friends. Look at this now. Let's see what Sister White, are you ready for this now? Sister White says, in China, no. In India, China, Russia. Why those three? Now, if she did not want to specify, she could have simply said the whole world. Didn't write that, didn't say that. In India, China, Russia, and the cities of America, watch, thousands of men and women are dying of starvation. Who is responsible? The moneyed men. Because they have the power, control the market. They purchase at low rates all they can obtain and then sell at greatly increased prices. This means starvation to the poorer classes and will result in a what? In a civil war. I'll come back there. And this will result in a civil war. There will be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a. And what scripture does she quote next? Daniel 12 verse 1. Go there with me, friends. Could this be another nail in the coffin to tell us, to explain chapter 11 verse 40 of Daniel? Because what power is China? It's a communist country. The king of the south is showing us the attributes, the characteristics of what? Of sodomy and atheism. Communism, friends. What's China? Communist country. Russia, communism. And she says, when you see these things, watch out. Daniel 12 verse 1, there will be a civil war. And what is, my friends? And what else? And Jesus will stand up. Now pause right there for a minute. What year was that written? When was the American Civil War? Okay, when did it end? Was it before 1899 or after? So what civil war is she talking about here? In connection with a time of trouble such as never was. And at that time, Michael shall stand up. It's not something in the 1800s. It's down here in 2018, friends, and beyond. That's what she's talking about. Are people who are faithful to God starving in those places right now? In India, Russia, China? Oh, friends, oh, friends, oh, friends. And it's going to get worse. And she also mentioned America. So what's coming in America? Civil war. And I believe God has been holding back the winds of strife. Did you recall a few years ago, the 1%, we are the 99% movement? Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Orlando, we had one down the road, Occupy, the Occupy movement. It's going to get worse. Tea Party is going to get worse, friends. And that's what I'm saying. If you just pick somewhere for country living to escape what's coming, you may make the wrong decision, friends. And they will come knocking on your door. not to get a Bible study, but bold robberies. That's why we're told in the book Adventist Home, page 141, find a location where the homes are not closely connected together. When you leave your home, your neighbor shouldn't see you, especially if that neighbor is not of the same faith. I'm not scaring you, friends. I'm just giving you boundaries right here. Put it to prayer. And God has a place for all of us. And do you know who God cannot help? Those who don't believe it. I mean, you have been defeated right now if you don't believe this, friends. But the world, I mean, go on YouTube. The world is saying, let's find retreat locations. The world is saying that. The world is saying that. Let's build bunkers for what? Let's store up food for what? The world can see something is coming. Even Sister White said the world can see something of a stupendous crisis is nearing. The world can see it. But Laodiceans, man, blind, can't see anything. Or they're willfully blind. So, I leave it there, friends. Not to scare you. But Michael is about to what, friends? Now, have we come full circle now? What's in James 5? We have come full circle now. James 5. Go to now your rich men. Weep and howl for your miseries. Your gold and silver are what? You have heaped treasures for when? Last days. Verse 9. But the judge stands where? That's the quotation right there. It's as clear as crystal. Let's go back here. Second sentence. The who men? With the money. And what would they do? Control the market. And what happens to the rest of us? Or the world rather? They become paupers, friends. Become paupers. And what will result? Civil war. And who will stand up next? Look at this statement. Education, page 228. At the same time, anarchy. What is that? What is anarchy? Mercy. Lawlessness. Chaos. Now, let the Lord's messenger defines that. Even details. And at the same time, anarchy is seeking to sweep away all law, not only divine, but human. The centralizing of what? What a connection. James 5 and the quote before this. All right. The centralizing of wealth and power, the vast combinations for the enriching of the few at the expense of the many. The combinations of the poorer classes for the defense of their interests and claims. Let's read now. The spirit of unrest, of riot, of bloodshed is coming, friends. The worldwide dissemination of the same teachings that led to the, wait a minute, what revolution? What? The characteristics of France after the 1790s went to which countries? Russia, China. Do you see it now? Communism, state-sponsored atheism left France from the revolution and went where? To China and Russia. We have come full circle, friends. Yeah. So much on my mind right now. What happened in France as it relates to unrest, riot, and bloodshed? Just go back and read that chapter in Great Controversy, the French Revolution. And you will see what's coming to America. And tell me if it's safe to live in these wicked cities. And the more wicked the city, the more judgments are coming. Tell me what's coming to America here, friends. Tell me. Tell me. Just go back and read the French Revolution. You will see the unrest. The amount of people that were slain, my friends. It was as if a sea of blood was running through the city. It says the people were so poor, they were eating. Can you imagine that kind of poverty? You begin to eat your children. your parents, if they're old and weak and feeble, you snatch food, whatever that food is, from their mouths, their hands. What kind of poverty is that? When you start gnawing at your belt and your slippers? And in the cities, there's no grass. So you can't eat grass. You're going to eat cement and dirt. That's humor. It's going to get worse, my friends. Do we know what this really means, what's coming for us? Oh, Pastor, you're scaring the people. Oh, is that so? So when Noah said a flood was coming, what was he doing? When Christ said, this city will be destroyed, what was he doing? And with every prophecy, it was a call of love, my friends. Call of love. If I only had one statement regarding China, Russia, and India, you would say, is that statement really saying what the pastor is saying? Look at this. Christ's Object Lessons, page 179. You got two witnesses now. Watch carefully. Different wording. From India, from Africa, from China, from the islands of the sea, from the downtrodden millions of so-called Christian lands. The cry of human woe is ascending to God. That cry will not long be unanswered. How will God answer that? He will cleanse the earth from its moral corruption, not by a sea of water as in Noah's day, but by a sea of fire that cannot be quenched by any human devising. There shall be a time of such as never was. You can't doubt that now, my friends. And we see what's happening in China, what's happening in India, what's happening in Russia, and even in Africa. You see what's happening. Yeah. And now we have come to the new world. When you see this. But Pastor, unemployment is at its lowest. You know what? I'm finished. Lord, have I said all? So, there's a work for us to do. And that work is aggressive evangelism, friends. There's a work for us to do. I'm saying, Lord, what more can I do for you? That's my prayer. And that should be your prayer. Lord, what more can I do for you? If I am going to have sleepless nights, and I have many of them, because I'm studying and planning and going through strategies, it must be for God's work. If I'm going to miss meals because I want to study and pray to have a clear mind to see where God is leading, if I'm going to abstain from food and drink, it must be for God's work. And I don't want to labor because I want to be saved, but because I'm being saved. And without it, I'm not going to be saved. Because we have to show our faith by our works. We have to. And everybody's running to India, Africa, when it's here in America is the mouth of that old dragon, that old serpent. It's here that we have to snatch people, as it were, from the fire. It's in America, friends. It's in America. Now, God may move some of you out. And some of you may have to go back home or move out and go somewhere else. Go to South America, go to the Caribbean, go somewhere else. But if God keeps you here, let's not just warm the bench, as we say colloquially. Let's warm in the bench, warm in the pews. Let's do all that we can for God, friends. You see those books you have, you get every Sabbath? What do you do with them? Do you have your testimonies? I want to hear your testimonies. I want to hear your testimonies. Do you remember that text we closed on? We began on in Psalm 39, where it says, while the fire, go back there, Psalm 39. Psalm 39. My heart was hot within me, And while I was musing, the fire burned. While I was musing, the fire, what, friends? Burned. What does musing mean? But this is not idle, indolent musing. No. Because inside of him was fire burning. While within me, I was hot. Yeah, that's the true Laodiceans now. Not lukewarm. Yeah, on fire for God. We close right here. Listen what this says. Mount of blessings. We are not only to contemplate the glory of Christ, but also to speak of his excellencies. Isaiah not only beheld the glory of Christ, but he also spoke of him. While David mused, the fire burned. Then spoke he with his tongue. What does that mean? While he mused upon what? The wondrous love of God, he could not but speak of that which he saw and felt. Have you seen anyone, friends, today? Have you felt anyone today? Have you seen Christ today? What is he offering you today? Wine? Have you felt the wine today? Have you tasted that wine? What must you do now, friends? You gotta go share it past that. The Lord requires his servants to be energetic. It is not pleasing to him to see them listless and indolent. They profess to have the evidence that God has especially selected them to teach the people the way to life. Yet frequently, their conversation is not profitable. Lord, have mercy upon us. Especially on the Sabbath. No wonder friends don't take us seriously. And our loved ones in our homes. And they show that they have not the burden of the work upon them. Their own souls are not energized by the mighty truths which they present to others. Oh, some preach these truths of such weighty importance in so listless a manner that they cannot affect the people. Whatsoever thy hand finds to do, do it with thy might. Men whom God has called must be trained to put forth effort, to work earnestly and with untiring zeal for him, to pull souls out of the fire. Oh, but when ministers feed the power of the truth in their souls, thrilling their own being, then will they possess power to affect hearts and show that they firmly believe the truths they preach to others. Oh, they should keep before the mind the worth of souls and the matchless depths of a Savior's love. This will awaken the soul so that with whom David, they may say, everybody, my heart was hot within me, and while I was musing how valuable is your soul? You know, in my book of quotations that I have a statement there from, I didn't see this, volume 3, page 188. Write it down, book it. Volume 3, 188. The soul is of infinite value. Mercy. Its worth can be estimated only by the price paid for it. Calvary, oh Calvary, shows the value of your soul. Mercy. How much am I worth? How much are you worth? How much are people worth around us, friends? Kneel with me. Father in heaven,